Hey, my name is Jude, and at this year's Summerslam, our tribal chief, Roman Reigns, defeated John Cena in the main event. It was the right decision to make, and the visual of Roman Reigns standing over Cena was just beautiful. But with that being said, the match itself didn't really meet my expectations, personally. Don't get me wrong, the match was fine, and it told a good story, but I didn't get the feeling that Roman smashed John Cena, like he said he would. And not only that, the feud between Cena and Reigns wasn't very good, in my opinion. I'll explain why. So, at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view this year, John Cena made his big return after being gone for like 15 months, I think, and he went face to face with Roman Reigns. And Cena got a monstrous pop when he made his return, and to be honest, it was actually really cool to see. But there were two moments in his return that personally made me cringe. First one was when he entered the ring, he gave Roman Reigns this sort of smarmy little look, and then he just completely ignored him as he went on about his entrance. And the second one was when he was finished with his entrance, he gave Roman Reigns this sort of like, "Oh hey, I didn't see you there." When those two moments happened, I was just like, no. It reminded me of why Cena's character just infuriates me so much. And it's that he has this sort of aloof attitude about him. It's like he doesn't care about anything in the world. Back when he was a full-time wrestler, whenever he suffered a big loss, whether it was like a title match or a grudge feud, or if something just bad happened to him, he would show up the next week with this big, cheesy smile and acting like a big happy goof and acting like the bad thing that happened to him never really happened. I hate that about John Cena's character. It's super unlikable, and it renders any sort of drama in his storyline completely useless because he just doesn't care. So after Money in the Bank, Cena showed up on Monday Night Raw and he pretty much cut a circa 2005 John Cena promo. He's happy to be here, he's happy to see the fans, all that stuff, and then he makes a challenge to fight Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship at Summerslam. But then he goes on to say he doesn't want to beat Roman Reigns to become the first ever 17-time world champion. He says he wants to beat Roman Reigns because he's an asshole. Now, I don't mind that motive, it's just I don't like that Cena took the whole chasing title number 17 storyline, a really cool storyline that could have added some good drama to their feud, and just threw it under the bus. Then on SmackDown that week, Roman Reigns made his response to John Cena. He called out John for putting on a nostalgia act, coming back with the same music, entrance, promos. Roman even compared John Cena to the missionary position, which that was freaking cool. Roman then declined John Cena's challenge, which then led to Finn Balor making his entrance and challenging Reigns for the Universal title. And then Roman accepted Finn's challenge. This was weird. I don't know why they included Finn Balor into the Roman Reigns John Cena feud. Maybe they did it to throw in some unpredictability, but I don't know, the inclusion of Finn was really weird and honestly not needed. This led to a Universal title match contract signing segment on the next week's SmackDown between Roman and Finn. Finn was just about to sign it, but then he got attacked by Baron Corbin, who was going through his broke phase. Corbin was about to sign his name on the contract, but then Cena came out and stopped it. And after that, Cena took Finn's contract and then he signed his own name on it instead. That was not a heroic move from John Cena. If Cena's supposed to be this Superman type of character in WWE, he should have given Finn back his contract. That would have been the right thing to do. But instead, John decided to sign his own name on it and essentially stole Finn's championship match away from him, which was very selfish and very heelish. So 2 weeks later, Roman Reigns and John Cena stood face to face once again, and then they had this shooty promo segment like the one they had 4 years ago? Yeah, 4 years ago. And from what I've seen, a lot of people love John Cena's promo in this segment. And personally, I don't get it. I think John Cena's promo in that segment was terrible. He basically took the same promo that he cut on Roman Reigns way back in 2017 and copied and pasted it in this segment, calling Roman Reigns an overrated, overpushed superstar protected by the WWE system. Now that promo worked in 2017 because yeah, Roman Reigns was pushed to the top of WWE despite the fans not wanting him there. He was forced down our throats as this particular type of heroic character that a lot of the fans, including myself, weren't really into. But that was 4 years ago. Now, Roman has completely changed. He has a brand new persona, a villain persona, but a persona that works so well to his strengths as a talent. He's way more compelling, charismatic, and super entertaining to watch. And now the vast majority of wrestling fans support Roman Reigns. So to have Cena go out there against this new version of Roman Reigns and cut the same old promo he did to the old Roman Reigns didn't make any sense at all. It made him less of a likable protagonist that you wanted to root for and more of a delusional, nonsensical man who's not in touch. And to make things worse, Cena didn't stop there. He kept on spouting more nonsense. He brought up Roman's former Shield buddies, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, and he said that Roman Reigns buried Seth's career and drove Dean Ambrose out of the company. Which, by the way, none of that is true. Seth has pretty much won every single championship in WWE, and now they're still presenting him as a top guy. And yeah, Dean Ambrose left WWE, but he didn't leave because of Roman Reigns, he left because of real life behind the scenes issues. This was just another attempt from Cena trying to be all edgy and cool, but really he looked awful. Cena then said that Roman is gonna smash him at SummerSlam, but all he has to do is survive and then pin Roman 1, 2, 3. And then he went to repeat that same sentence over and over and over and over again. I mean, he used different verbiage, yeah, but they all meant the same thing. Survive the punishment and then pin Roman 1, 2, 3. The fact that he repeated it over and over and over again, it was just really odd. It felt like Cena had nothing else to say, so he just kept repeating the same thing again. Then Cena went to end the promo with another attempt in trying to be edgy and cool. He said that when he wins, he's going to take the title, hop over the barricade, maybe even blow a kiss, and then leave with the title and go back to Hollywood. The whole thing was a reference to CM Punk, who back in 2011 defeated John Cena, won the WWE title, and left WWE with the title. Thing is, CM Punk has no relevance to this feud, so I don't know why John made a reference to him, but also, why the hell would Cena say something like that? Again, he's supposed to be the hero, the Superman of WWE, and yet he says he's going to take the Universal title, leave the fans high and dry, and go back to Hollywood like an outright douchebag. I didn't like this promo segment, because it just made Cena look like a delusional twat. And then on the Go Home SmackDown show before SummerSlam, Reigns and Cena had one more confrontation. Then Roman threw in a last minute stipulation: if he loses the Universal title, he's gonna leave WWE. That stipulation pretty much killed any sense of unpredictability that this match had, because a lot of people knew that Cena was going back to Hollywood after SummerSlam, and Roman Reigns is not leaving WWE anytime soon. So yeah, the Roman Reigns John Cena feud heading into SummerSlam, I didn't really like. Cena came off as his usual aloof, I don't care about anything type of character, while also cutting these weird delusional promos, which made Roman Reigns' promos make way more sense, despite him being the self-absorbed heel. The inclusion of Finn Balor was super weird and not needed at all, and that match at SummerSlam, while good, I think it could have been better. So with all that said, I want to tweak it. I want to make a few changes to the rivalry and to the match itself. Changes that hopefully make Cena a more clear-cut, likable babyface and Roman Reigns a clear-cut douchebag heel, and make their feud and SummerSlam match way more compelling and exciting. Hopefully. So, this is how I would change the SummerSlam 2021 feud between John Cena and Roman Reigns. So first things first, take Finn out of the feud. He is not needed at all. You don't have to throw in another wrestler with Roman Reigns and John Cena to make the Universal title feud more interesting. Because you have Roman Reigns and John Cena. That is more than enough to work with. So we'll start with Cena's return at Money in the Bank, and I'm gonna change those two moments that I really don't like. He comes out like in real life, big pop and all that stuff, but once he slides in the ring, he gets up and he gives Roman a dead serious look. Cena acknowledges Roman's presence like a grown adult. He stares at Roman for a bit, and then he slowly looks back to the roaring crowd. He gives them a little smile, and then gives Roman another look before going back to his usual theatrics, running the ropes, throwing the hat to the crowd, all that stuff. Then once he's done all that stuff, he turns his full attention back to Roman Reigns. All serious now. He walks right up into Roman's face and the two men have a brief but cool stare down. Then Cena looks at the Universal title, he looks back at Roman Reigns, and then he does the belt around the waist gesture. We then cut back to Roman Reigns and you can just tell that he is trying to hold all of his anger in. Then the segment ends with the two men standing face to face as the pay-per-view draws to a close. So with these two changes, Cena still has his usual entrance that gets the crowd hot, but at the same time, he takes Roman Reigns seriously and treats him like an actual threat. Then we move on to Cena's appearance on Raw, and like in real life, he addresses the fans, it's good to be back, all that stuff. And then he goes to cut a promo that is different from the one that he cut in real life. He looks into the camera and says something along the lines of this. Roman, 4 years ago, I criticized you. I said that you could never be the guy. And for a while, my words were holding up. But then last year, you made a big change. You changed your look, and you changed your attitude. You won the Universal title, and ever since then, for almost a year, you've dominated the main event scene. Hell, at WrestleMania, you pinned 2 world-class athletes at the same time. Roman, you've proven me wrong, and I respect that. I don't agree with your methods, but it's clear as day that you have become that main event guy in WWE. And it's clear that all these people see you as the guy. But there's one problem I have with you. Every time you come into this ring, you always talk about how you're levels above everyone else in this industry, from past, present, and future. And that doesn't sit well with me. Even though I moved on to Hollywood, I firmly believe that I can get back into this ring and stand up to the absolute best that WWE has to offer. And the way I see it, the only way I can prove that is by dethroning you. And that's why I'm back. I'm back because I want to beat you and etch my name in wrestling history as the first ever 17-time world champion and as the man who defeated the tribal chief. Roman, here's my challenge. Me and you, one-on-one, for the Universal title in the main event of SummerSlam. Now, Roman, odds are you're going to address my challenge on SmackDown. So, I'll see you there, champ. Here, we get a more serious promo from John Cena, where he actually puts over Roman Reigns as the top guy, while also putting over the idea of beating Roman Reigns and becoming the first ever 17-time world champion, 2 extremely important wrestling accolades. This sets up a compelling story foundation that's going to build up in the coming weeks. We move on to SmackDown, and it starts with Paul Heyman backstage, who announces that the tribal chief will address Cena's challenge at the end of the show. Because his answer will be so monumental, it has to be the main event. We fast forward to the end, but before Reigns comes out, Cena makes his entrance. He grabs a mic and he says that he wants to make sure that Roman addresses his challenge in person, face to face, like a man. And then the head of the table makes his entrance. Glorious entrance and all, and he is flanked by his special counsel, and the Usos. Roman then cuts a promo along the lines of this: "John, you actually impressed me. You know, to be honest, after the stunt you pulled at Money in the Bank, coming out as the same old circa 2005 John Cena with the same music, the same clothes, the same entrance, and then doing what you do best, taking the spotlight away from another talent. When you came out on Raw, I was expecting more of the, oh, I'm just here for the fans, and I make silly childish jokes, John Cena promo. But you didn't do any of that. Your promo on Raw actually made sense. You were well spoken, charismatic, all that stuff. But most important of all, you acknowledged me. I'm impressed." Roman then turns to Heyman and says in a mocking tone, "Wise man, did you see that on Raw? John acknowledged me." Heyman laughs with Roman and then he gestures to Cena. "Good job, kid." Then Roman says, "But you didn't stop there, John. You made a challenge to me." Let's cut to the chase. "I accept." John is surprised at this. He didn't expect Roman to accept this challenge right off the bat. Roman then says, "Your accomplishments speak for you, John. For a whole decade, you were on top of the mountain, winning world titles, taking on all comers in the main event scene. Before I was the man, you were the man. And not only that, you moved on to Hollywood, and you're doing a bang-up job there. What with the Fast and Furious franchise and the Suicide Squad. Those were big box office movies, and everyone loves those movies. And everyone thought you were great in them. You're the hottest celebrity right now, John. And with that, along with your wrestling accolades, you're indeed worthy of a Universal title shot. And the Tribal Chief deserves a main event, must-see box office match at SummerSlam. And John, you can provide that for me. So, congratulations, John. You got your match." But don't get too excited. On August 21st, inside the Allegiant Stadium, I'm gonna smash you, son. I'm gonna smash your ass and send you back to Hollywood. Whatever's left of you anyway. Roman smiles like an arrogant prick, and then he raises his Universal title in the air. So with this segment, Roman Reigns comes off as his usual, arrogant yet charismatic self, while also making the match official right from the get-go. We move on to next week's SmackDown, and it starts off with Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce. They announce that John Cena wants to work off some ring rust, and so he's going to have his first ever TV match since returning in the main event of SmackDown tonight. After this, we cut to backstage to Roman Reigns' locker room, who is watching the promo unfold on TV. Then, the Usos enter the frame, and then Jimmy says that he wants to fight John Cena. This grabs Roman's attention, and he just turns like, "What?" Jimmy tells Roman that John is trying to get in the way of our family business and take away our spotlight, so he needs to pay for that. Roman then says to Jimmy, "You think you could beat John Cena?" And Jimmy responds, "I know I can, Us. I got this." Roman thinks for a moment, and then he says to Jimmy, "You better." And then he tells Heyman, "Make the match happen." So in the main event of SmackDown, we have the match between John Cena and Jimmy Uso. And it plays out like a usual John Cena match. Jimmy gets the offense throughout most of the match, and then Cena makes his Superman comeback, and then beats Jimmy clean. Cena celebrates in the ring after the match, and then we cut to backstage to Roman Reigns, who is just seething at the result. We then move on to next week's SmackDown, and the show opens with the Usos in Roman Reigns' locker room. And Roman Reigns is just staring a hole through Jimmy Uso, who's just looking at the ground in shame. Then, Jey Uso speaks up, and he says, "Hey, what happened last week? That was just bad luck. Let me at it, Us. I'll fight John Cena, and I'll set things straight." Roman looks at Jey, and to the surprise of Paul Heyman and Jimmy, he nods. And then he says to Jey, "Do our family proud." Here, Reigns doesn't question Jay, unlike he did with Jimmy last week. I did this just as a reminder that at this point in the family drama storyline, Reigns is far more trusting of Jay than Jimmy, because he has proven his loyalty and his tenacity over the past several months. So Cena and Jay wrestle in the main event, and the match plays out the same way that it played out last week with Jimmy. But instead of a clean finish, the match ends in a DQ when Jay Uso attacks John Cena with a steel chair. Jay takes the chair and he just smashes it over Cena over and over and over again, punishing him for what he did last week. Jay yells in Cena's face, "Don't ever get in the way of our bloodline business." Then as Jay is walking to the back, he is met by Roman Reigns, who has a proud smile on his face. We move on to next week's show, and just like last week, it starts with the Usos in Roman's locker room. Reigns looks at Jay and then he says, "You did what you had to do. You protected our family. You made the family proud." Then Reigns looks over to Jimmy and he's just like, unlike some people. He's hurt by the words, but then he says to Roman, "What happened 2 weeks ago? That was just a one-time mistake. It won't happen again. I promise." Roman then looks at Jimmy dead in the eye and then says, "It better not, because our family's watching." Here we get a small little advancement in the family drama storyline and more drama between Roman Reigns and his cousins. That's never a bad thing. Later on in the show, Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce, they announced that Roman Reigns is going to have a non-title exhibition match in the main event of SmackDown. Then as the show goes on, we get a backstage promo from John Cena saying that he's going to be a guest commentator in Roman's match because he wants to see the Tribal Chief's in-ring abilities firsthand. We get to the main event. Out comes Roman Reigns. John Cena's on commentary. Reigns grabs the mic and then says, "Cena, for the past 2 weeks, you've been great, but I can do better." Roman then says that his non-title exhibition match is going to be an open challenge, and then he dares anybody from the locker room to step up and face the head of the table. And who should answer his challenge? Dominic Mysterio. Out comes Dominic, and his father Rey Mysterio is just rushing behind him. He's just like, "Hey son, what are you doing?" Dominic stops him and he's like, "It's okay, Dad. I got this." Dominic grabs the mic and then says, "Roman, 8 weeks ago, you fought my dad inside Hell in a Cell. And you almost took him away from me. I want revenge." Roman's just like, "Okay. Get in here, boy." So Roman versus Dominic is made official, and throughout the whole match, Reigns gives Dominic a prison beating. But Dominic takes the beating like a warrior. He shows a lot of heart, but in the end, Roman completely destroys him and makes him tap out to the guillotine choke. After the match, Roman Reigns poses in victory. Rey Mysterio instantly slides to the ring to cradle his beaten, broken boy. The show then ends with Roman Reigns holding his title in the air, jaw-jacking at John Cena, who's sitting at commentary like, "Huh. So that's who he's become." Then we get to the Go Home SmackDown show, and the main event is a face-to-face promo segment between Roman Reigns and John Cena. But it's not like the shoot promo that they did in real life. It's more along the lines of a traditional pro wrestling promo that's kept in kayfabe. Both men put each other over while also laying out the animosity that they have for each other. The hero and villain aspects are blatantly expressed in this promo segment, with Cena being the noble and pure babyface and Roman Reigns being this cocky, arrogant prick heel. And by the end of the promo, Cena says something along the lines of this: "Roman, when I made this challenge to you weeks ago, it was just business, but now things are personal. I've seen every action you've made these last few weeks in person, and every single one of them go against the morals and principles that I strive to live up to every day of my life. You treat your cousins like they're beneath you, and seeing what you did to Dominic Mysterio last week, I have no words for it. Roman Reigns, you are an awful human being, and you need to be stopped. At SummerSlam, you're gonna put me through hell. I get that. But just like every other match I've had, I'll persevere. I won't back down from you, and I'll never quit. And I promise you and everyone this. I'm going to give you everything I have to beat you, become the first ever 17-time world champion in this industry, and end your reign of tyranny. Reigns just grits his teeth, and then he says, John, I made things personal? No, you made things personal. You came back, took my spotlight, and then you tried to embarrass my family. You're gonna pay for that. At SummerSlam, you're gonna bring the fight. There's no denying that. But like I said before, I'm gonna smash you, son. I'm gonna smash your ass so bad that there'll be nothing left of you for Hollywood. All the big time movie studios like Universal and Warner Brothers, they're gonna be so pissed that you won't be able to carry out your acting duties anymore. Your whole entire career is going to end, and it's gonna be all your fault. Because you made this personal, John, not me. And then suddenly, boom! Roman Reigns sucker punches John Cena. Cena staggers back a bit, and then Roman smiles sadistically before he goes for a Superman punch. But then Cena quickly recovers, ducks out of the way, and then picks up Reigns for an attitude adjustment. But then Reigns manages to slip out, and then he just flees from the ring. The show ends with Cena staring down Roman, who is just mouthing off at Cena as he makes his way to the back. Then finally, we get to the match at SummerSlam, Roman Reigns, John Cena. And in this booking, the match is going to play out differently than it did in real life. The match starts with the usual tie-up sequence, and it ends with Roman overpowering Cena. They lock up a second time, and just like before, Roman overpowers Cena again. Roman steps back, he taunts Cena in the crowd like he usually does, while Cena's just like, alright, I need to focus. They lock up again, then we get into another chain wrestling sequence, with this time, Cena out-wrestles Roman Reigns. Reigns retreats to the outside, acting all mad and pissed off, while Cena's back in the ring, poised, ready, and waiting. The two men get into another chain wrestling sequence, and just like last time, Cena is about to get the upper hand, but then he is suddenly cut off by Roman Reigns, who pulls off a callous maneuver. You know, something like Roman Reigns whipping John Cena into the steel steps hard, and then he just grabs his head and just smashes it into the steps over and over and over again. This gives Roman a clear advantage, and then after that, we get a long sequence of Roman Reigns smashing John Cena. And as the match progresses, Roman Reigns gets more and more violent, to the point where he pulls out all the stops. He spears John Cena through the barricade not once, but twice. He powerbombs Cena through both announce tables. Reigns even gets a little cheeky and hits Cena with his own finishing moves, the attitude adjustment and the STF submission. Roman is just destroying Cena, but despite all of that, Cena refuses to quit. He sells the pain, but he keeps getting back up, showing off his never say die attitude. We get to a point in the match where Cena is struggling to get up. He grabs onto Reigns and uses him to get back on his feet. Roman is pissed off at this, and he just grabs Cena's chin and he's just like, Cena, just quit. It'll be alright. But of course, Cena refuses. And then he just, boom! He slaps Roman right in the face. Roman sells the slap, and then he just turns back to Cena with a murderous look. And John, who's now back on his feet, he's just like... Roman goes for a clothesline, which Cena ducks, and then we get his usual Superman comeback sequence. Shoulder block, back suplex, you can't see me, 5-knuckle shuffle. He then follows up with a successful attitude adjustment. He goes for the pin, and the ref counts 1, 2, but no. Roman Reigns kicks out at 2.5. But Cena wastes no time. He flips Roman onto his stomach, and then immediately he applies the STF. Reigns is trapped in the submission for about a minute, and he teases a tap out. But he doesn't submit, and eventually he crawls over to the ropes, and then he grabs the bottom rope to break up the hold. Cena is stunned that Roman survived his 2 finishing moves, but he is not done yet. Cena brings Roman over to the top turnbuckle, then John picks him up on his shoulders, and then he plants Roman Reigns with a big avalanche attitude adjustment. He goes for the pin again, and then the ref counts 1, 2, but no! Roman Reigns kicks out at 2 3/4. Cena has his head in his hands. He can't believe that Roman Reigns has survived his big move. For a moment, Cena sits there in a state of shock, and then he shakes it off. He's not going to give up. Cena grabs Roman, and then he slowly hoists him up for one more attitude adjustment. But just before he goes for it, Roman sees that the ref is within reach, and then he reaches out and grabs the referee's collar. The ref is demanding for Reigns to let go, and Cena is just trying to break Reigns' grip, to the point where Cena gets completely frustrated, and then he just pulls Reigns off as hard as he can. Cena manages to break Reigns' grip, but the force behind his pull was so strong he inadvertently causes the ref to get pulled down to the floor and flat on his face. And at the same time, Cena loses his hold on Reigns, allowing Roman to slip out. So the ref takes a bump right on his face, and he's just clutching his face in pain. John sees that the ref is down, and he goes over to check up on him. And while he's distracted, Roman Reigns sneaks up behind John Cena and just does boom! Uppercuts Cena right in the nether regions. But since the ref is down, he couldn't see the illegal move. Cena falls on the mat, he's just breathing in pain, and as Roman looks down at Cena, you can see his face get all murderous once again. Roman mounts Cena, and then he unleashes a ferocious volley of rights and lefts. It's like the beating that he gave to Jey Uso at Clash of Champions last year, but this time it's even more violent. This lasts for about a minute until Reigns stops, picks up Cena, and smashes him with a big powerbomb. He then picks up Cena and smashes him with another powerbomb, and then another one after that. And at this point, Cena is just a lifeless heap. Roman smiles sadistically at his handiwork, and then he notices that the ref has fully recovered from his face bump. He then pins Cena for the win. The ref counts 1, 2, but no! Cena kicks out a millisecond before 3. Cena, despite being completely beaten and battered, refuses to quit. He deadman crawls to the ropes, and he uses the ropes to get back on his feet. It's a hell of a struggle, but he manages to do it. All the while, Roman is just looking at Cena like, I'm gonna end you. And as Cena turns around, boom! Reigns runs over Cena with another brutal spear. He then immediately mounts Cena again and unleashes another ferocious volley of rights and lefts. He just keeps hitting him and hitting him and hitting him to the point where if they can pull this off, Cena gets busted wide open. The ref sees this and he's just like, okay, that's enough. And then he just dives in between the two men. Once Roman finally backs away, the ref checks Cena's vital signs, and it is clear that John Cena is out. The referee calls for the bell. The bell rings, and everyone watching is just like, wait, what? The ring announcer grabs the mic and says, ladies and gentlemen, the referee has informed me that John Cena is no longer able to compete. Therefore, your winner of this match, by knockout, and still your Universal Champion, Roman Reigns. As the announcement is made, Roman Reigns slowly turns to the camera with a proud, sadistic smile. Now, the rebooking of this match, along with the finish, accomplishes two things in my mind. One, it makes Cena look like a valiant, undying babyface in the end. He never got pinned, and he refused to tap out. And it makes Roman Reigns look like an absolute monstrous asshole in that he cheated while the referee wasn't looking, and he brutalized John Cena to the point where he knocked him out cold. Because we've seen John Cena lose convincingly sometimes. Heck, a few years ago, we've seen him get absolutely squashed by Brock Lesnar, excuse me. But from my memory, we have never seen John Cena, the Superman of WWE, get beaten up so bad to the point where he loses consciousness. So what better way to make Roman Reigns look like a god-level monster by having him take John Cena and have him do what Doomsday did to Superman in the comics. Just absolutely destroy him. Minus the death. So, after the match, Roman Reigns stands over Cena, and with his bloody hand, he just does. The Usos enter the ring, and they congratulate Roman Reigns on his big victory. Paul Heyman gives the Universal title to Reigns with a awe-inspired look, and then we get a nice wide shot of the Bloodline standing tall in the ring, holding their titles in the air. We the ones. And dead center in the frame is Roman Reigns, who is standing with his boot firmly planted on John Cena's unconscious body, posing in victory, looking like an absolute callous but badass megastar. And this ends the SummerSlam pay-per-view. Now in this booking, I'm not gonna have Brock Lesnar make his return here. I want all the focus to be on Roman Reigns standing tall over a prone Cena, so everyone watching will be thinking, holy shit, Roman Reigns took the #1 guy in wrestling for the past decade or so and absolutely murdered him. This Roman Reigns guy is an absolute megastar. And that is the end of the booking. So that's how I would have done the Reigns and Cena feud heading into SummerSlam. Cena's character's tweaked to look more like an actual babyface that people will get behind, rather than the delusional, out-of-touch man that he was in real life. Roman gets to be his usual charismatic yet narcissistic, self-absorbed, evil self, which is cool to see. Both men are positioned as the top 2 guys in professional wrestling, and both of them actually put over each other like $1 million. We don't have to rely on shoot 'em up promos to build up this feud, and hopefully the rebooked match itself harkens back to the story-driven match of the year candidates Roman Reigns has had with guys like Jey Uso, Edge, and Cesaro, with the finish of the match of Roman Reigns knocking out Cena cold, making him look like a megastar that everyone will want to pay to see. So that's the end of the video. If you guys have any thoughts, feel free to lay them down in the comment section below. But that's all I got now. Until the next video, take care guys.